Hey internets, just want to have a quick conversation with you guys about production, sort of options for mass production. So if you follow the channel, you know on this topic I've been talking a little bit or giving kind of a lookout on the US-China tariff war that's going on. And as this is post-dating where we've just rounded out the government shutdown in the United States with the border wall between the US and Mexico with Donald Trump versus the Democrats, which led to a government shutdown, and they just opened up for 3 weeks. So when you're watching this in the future, I'm recording from this point, and so I only mentioned that to say that there's a little bit of turmoil going on, and another thing that is still getting discussed, of course, is tariffs. And so on this channel, I'll talk about it as it pertains to fashion, so I'm keeping an eye out on it. And as it is right now, there's nothing crazy. Everyone's trying to see what's going on, but a lot of companies are making moves to prepare to make changes. A couple companies, and not necessarily in fashion, are shutting down and rerouting things to other countries because the tariff war is causing certain things to have a higher cost, which it basically changes the supply chain and the way that you need the logistics to flow in your companies. Are there going to be casualties moving forward? Yes, if we still have aggressive measures moving forward, it's gonna affect more than just fashion. And so I'm watching all of this unfold. And so I talked to a vendor that has a factory both in China and Bangladesh. This person has been in the business over 30 years, so they know in and out importing, exporting, and then mass production with not just apparel but a couple other things. But this person knows the game very well, and so they opened in Bangladesh to have certain things produced. Labor is cheaper than in China, but the MOQs, or the minimum order quantity, needs to be at a certain number, like 2,000. To make it a viable option. So that's going to be only for certain clientele that can really get to those numbers. And this vendor's done major chains here. So actually, one chain that he did mention is Sears, and as the time that this is post-dating, Sears is going through the bankruptcy and shutting down, and there's kind of still in the conversation of trying to get saved and bought by, I think, an individual. But in any case, Sears came into the conversation, which is interesting because he's created product for brands that sell to Sears. So that kind of volume is what we're talking about. And so he's actually thinking of opening production in Africa, which is a similar situation as in India. The labor cost can be less than China, but it's just an MOQ thing. It's just a minimums thing. So he wants the option to shift. And I don't remember the conversation if it's already begun, but he's already had a plant in India for a while now that they're operating, his family's operating. And so he shifted some business there to retain margin. It's a difficult game to be a vendor, and I've talked about this from being a US vendor and having my high volume screen printing and embroidery shop that I owned for 3 years. And so just because it's coming from China, I mean, there are people there too, and they have to do their math as well. And so there's a lot of risk that kind of goes around in a lot of different ways. And the tariffs don't help. And so everyone is just kind of, I would say people are looking out for their options. A big company like this company is definitely trying to be proactive about what's going to unfold in the future, just so that they don't have any surprises and they can retain their clientele and survive through and probably pick up the clientele of some of the other vendors that fall by the wayside as it gets into like rough terrain. One thing I want to bring up though that I'll title in the video is Vietnam. So this past New Year's, I do New Year's in a different country all the time. Christmas with the family, New Year's in another country. And this past year I was in Vietnam for the first time. I was in Ho Chi Minh, I was in Saigon, and so if you follow me on Instagram, then you saw some of my clips from there. I had a great time there, and I actually started looking into production. Now Vietnam is another place that's great for manufacturing. It's been an option, and since I looked at it, I realized that I want to explore it more. So you'll see on this channel, I've actually made some connections with a couple of manufacturers. So I'm trying to see the difference of how they do business and what things might be different, what things might be advantageous, and what categories they have strength in. You hear me say all the time that China's the best. They've just been doing apparel for so long, and they're so dominant with so many categories. A lot of footwear developers are in Vietnam at the moment, but there is apparel. There's a lot of apparel that's done in Vietnam. So just trying to see the parameters of that. From the outset, it looks like it's an MOQ thing. So it looks like you need about 2,000. 1,000 kind of begins the conversation pieces for production in Vietnam, but I saw so many shops where I just saw one-off and two-off jukis or industrial sewing machines kind of going. So I'm sure there's pockets where you can find small garage shops or smaller operations, I should say, of people putting together more sample type runs and trying to aspire to become a bigger manufacturing company. But we'll see. I'm talking to a couple people there now, and I'll keep you guys posted. But trying to figure out mass production for mid and bigger companies is a little bit of a melee now, and I'm having meetings to talk about it and look at it. And so some of you guys have asked me to update, and I have my eye out on how tariffs are really impacting our production for apparel. So I'll keep you guys posted. That's what I see right now, and I'm also going to do separate videos where I'm going to talk to some leading experts of manufacturers in Vietnam so we can see that as an option. I do have love for China. I've been there on several trips, northern and southern China, also Hong Kong, all over. And so going to Vietnam for production might be really fun. It's just something a little bit different. And all the production is about 1 to 2 hours from Saigon, which is great. Like, that's the main city there. So you really don't have to leave the luxuries of a main city. So you'll see some videos on that in the future. Okay, long vid. Thanks for sticking with me. You guys have questions about production or anything, drop it all down below. Follow me on social media. I'll see you guys on the next one. All right.